Hi, everybody. I'm Essex County Commissioner Brendan Gill, also honored to be the chair of the Montclair Dems. We're excited to present the interviews with Mary Alice Williams. This year, there is no more important election across the country than the race to become the next governor of the state of New Jersey. I'm proud to lead this great statewide organization made up of over 12,000 volunteers who help to elect our Democratic candidates up and down the ballot. In order to educate our members, as well as the public, the Montclair Dems is proud to produce a series of long-form, one-on-one interviews with all 6 Democratic candidates for governor. We are privileged to have legendary broadcast journalist Mary Alice Williams conducting these interviews. Today we are joined by Mayor Steve Fulop. Mayor Fulop is serving his 3rd term as the mayor of the state's 2nd largest city, Jersey City. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Alice Williams and Mayor Steve Fulop.
Thank you, Brendan. Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Why do you want to be governor?
It's a good question. I think New Jersey is at a dangerous place, both politically and governmentally. I think that the affordability crisis is front and center. People like my kids won't be able to live in their own house probably till they're 40 on the trajectory they're at. I love my kids, but I don't want them living with me till they're 40. And I think the environment, I think Trent needs to be more bold on what we're doing, to be honest with you.
What challenge did you face in your 12 years as mayor of Jersey City that positions you to be governor?
Well, I think being a mayor is a unique qualification for being governor. There's 564 municipalities. You have home rule here, understanding the levers of being a mayor. Over my 12 years, we've dealt with police reform. We've dealt with climate issues. We've dealt with union negotiations. I've dealt with a mass shooting. I've been responsible for a $800 million budget. And the accountability is different when you are a mayor. So I think that every day is a different challenge. That's why I love the job. And I think that it is the best proving ground to being an effective governor.
The buzzword for the 2025 campaign is affordability. Property taxes are up, utility costs going up 20%. Seriously? How do you make living here more affordable?
I think there's a lot that needs to happen. I think the affordability conversation is kind of like this poll-tested, all-encompassing word. I think that there's a lot of challenges if you really want to confront it. In order to drive down housing costs, you need to have a supply conversation, and I think we have the most comprehensive plan on that. I think you need to address transportation in order to actually encourage more housing and employment opportunities. We have the most comprehensive plan on that. I think you need to confront home rule if you are really going to confront some of the differences around consolidation. We have the most comprehensive plan on that. And so I think there's a lot to affordability in this, say, on healthcare. We're the only ones talking about that in detail. So I think there's a lot to that affordability conversation.
And I'm going to break those down independently. But what I'm not hearing is you say we're going to have to raise taxes.
No, look, I think you need to readjust revenue. I say it at every single meet and greet. When people ask me what is the first thing I'm going to do when I'm the governor, I say that I've learned as being a mayor that the political capital you have in the first 90 days is different than the next 3.5 years.
Right.
And so if you're going to fix Trenton and fix New Jersey, you need to really be fair about fixing the tax structure. How do you tax 2 millionaire people who make 2 million and 5 million? How do you revisit the farm tax credits that exist today? How do you think about transportation and the transit tax that exists today?
So you are considering raising taxes?
Well, yeah, we're going to fix some of that stuff. I think that it's going to redesign it, and I think that the revenue side of the conversation is important. So yes, raising taxes on certain high earners is going to be part of the conversation for sure. And it's something that I think is fair and important to be doing if you're going to move New Jersey forward.
And jacking up sin taxes?
What kind of taxes?
Sin taxes, gambling.
And, I'd say gambling and no. I mean, look, our plan doesn't necessarily speak to alcohol and gambling. The reality of the conversation is that they're putting huge surcharges on alcohol in the current budget. And small business owners are the ones complaining about it because it's going to impact them. And I think in the current environment, There's other ways to address the budget. I mean, when Republicans talk about the fact that there's $1 billion in Christmas tree items that are late items that are added to the budget, there's truth to that. And so you should probably cure the process on how budgets work before you start thinking about how to squeeze small businesses.
The job of governor is going to require some hard choices. Particularly this year, Governor Murphy's indicated that between federal funding freezes and outright cuts, this state, which already has the highest business and property taxes in the nation, could lose $27.5 billion in federal funds. And Governor Murphy's proposing hiking taxes by more than $1 billion.
Yeah, I think Governor Murphy's approaching it the wrong way. All of us talk about Trump and Musk, and the reality is that I've approached it differently because I have a track record that's different, saying these are the tangible steps and specific things that I will do in order to better serve New Jersey. When you think about kind of the Attorney General and litigation, I'm keeping Matt Plack in there because I think continuity from a litigation standpoint is important, and he has been at the forefront of pushing back some of these cuts, number one. Number two is the state surplus, which has grown from $500 million under Christie when he left to $6 billion today. The purpose of a surplus is to offset some of these reductions. Right. And I'm the only candidate talking openly about how he would use that. When Governor Murphy talks about the $26 billion, that's the assumption that every single dollar we get from the federal government will go away. And that's not realistic. We are going to have to pick and choose. But Trenton would be responsible if they were having town halls and public hearings today to talk through this with people. Today, none of that is happening. And I think it'd be a different type of governor with all of these sort of things.
Let's talk about housing,
Yeah.
and in two separate tranches. One is, how do you make housing for our children affordable? And the second, of course, is affordable housing. So first, housing for everyone.
But look, I think that you got to really focus on middle income housing, and supply is part of the conversation there. I think that I touched on home rule originally, and part of our affordability plan creates leverage over municipalities, smaller municipalities, being that 75% of them have less than 20,000 people. How do you create leverage over them to actually get people building? We outline that pretty clearly. How do you restructure the EDA program to incentivize more growth for the type of suburban building that is responsible and not something that people find offensive? How do you reimagine the tax credits? I have familiarity with this because we've built more in Jersey City than anybody in the state of New Jersey. So I know a thing or two, and I have a track record of being a YIMBY. That's a yes in my backyard. and I'm proud of that. On low income housing, the largest mixed income project with 35% affordable housing in the state is in Jersey City. We're redoing public housing construction into mixed income and home ownership, and with the strongest right of return policies. I say this because, I think that the housing plan for the state of New Jersey needs to be really comprehensive statewide, not municipality by municipality, with Trenton taking the lead, and experience matters. And I have a different set of experiences than anybody else here.
Trenton has streamlined affordable housing development, but that's hit legal and political obstacles.
Has Trenton streamlined it? Because that would be news to me. I mean, the reality of the situation is I don't think the governor has leaned into that, because I think that if you are going to really address housing construction, you need to tie dollars into the actual municipalities that are complying. There needs to be a reward for people that are actually moving forward. Today, there's no penalty and no reward for compliance. And the reality is, when you talk about affordable housing and segregation in housing, Phil Murphy has not engaged in that. So he doesn't talk about it often. I don't think that the process has streamlined in a meaningful way. He hasn't leaned into it. I think it's a disconnect. And I think that you need a governor that's going to be a little bit more aggressive on this stuff.
Let's talk about schools. Housing has a major impact on schools, which has been determined face de facto segregation. Our schools do.
For sure.
The Trump administration cut $1.2 billion in education funding, closed the program that funded Head Start, and another that helped Jersey farmers provide fresh food to schools and food pantries. And they cut off $85 million in pandemic relief money. Our schools are the magnet that draw people to New Jersey.
Yeah.
What are you going to do to shore them up and make them better?
Let me tell you that it's another missed opportunity, and I'm a different type of executive, and I'd be a different type of governor. So first, go back to the state surplus conversation. You definitely need to offset some of those cuts in order to make sure the schools operate going forward. But more importantly than that, in this moment in time, President Trump has redefined what education looks like in any state and obviously across the country. There's a new set of rules. And when and if you have a Republican governor in the state of New Jersey, which we'll have at some point, there's a new set of rules of possibilities of what you can do with public education. You could teach religion if somebody wanted to. You could be outing young kids. The governor has more latitude because the president has set the stage for that. New Jersey, if you've read the state constitution, it doesn't define really what education looks like here. It just says everybody's entitled to an education. And I think the governor and the legislature would be smart to putting up some constitutional guardrails around what education looks like in New Jersey. It's important for the future, and it's important to send a message to the federal government that New Jersey is setting up guardrails so that a Republican governor or a governor that doesn't have the same priorities with regards to public education can't co-opt the system. Two things that I would do differently than anybody else.
Let's talk about healthcare.
Yeah.
The NJ Family Care Health Program relied on more than $14 billion in federal funds. That's now in jeopardy. The Trump administration and Congress are weighing cutting Medicaid out altogether. That 2 million people, more than 2 million New Jersey people rely on Medicaid.
Yeah.
Could you, as a governor, fill that gap?
You probably couldn't fill the gap entirely. Okay, that's the truth. But where I think the disconnect today is that you need to be communicating with the public, doing town halls, talking about the budget, what the priorities are, who's most vulnerable. Nobody in Trenton is doing that today. And I think that speaks to the fact that there's a gap between how residents view Trenton and what actually needs to happen in there. I think that if you are going to responsibly prioritize, like we're doing in Jersey City, we have $60 million that is at risk. And we're trying our best to be clear with the public, saying an environmental program that I'm passionate about is different than a Meals on Wheels program where seniors rely on food. And we're going to be clear about how we prioritize the dollars with what's at risk. It's not happening in Trenton. So how we fill the Medicaid gaps, unclear. We'll be able to do some of it, but I think Trenton needs to do a better job of being more transparent and accountable and prioritizing what's at risk so we could all collectively make a decision.
New Jersey law protects women's health care by guaranteeing the right to maternity care and abortion. It's stockpiling medical abortifactants. Should the law be changed?
No, I think that New Jersey has, let me just say, New Jersey has strong laws today, amongst the strongest in the country for women's reproductive rights, okay? And I think that that is an area that Phil Murphy has done very well. And I think that a Fulop administration would build on this. Now, I have a unique track record on this. Jersey City has a very unique and special partnership with Planned Parenthood for our WIC program, Women, Infant, and Children, serving immigrant communities and minority and low-income communities with family planning services in a very comprehensive way. We're the only ones in the state that does that. So when people think about kind of track record, I would point to the fact that Jersey City is doing it at a different level than anybody else in the state with regards to reproductive rights.
Transit.
Yeah.
Corporate taxes and federal funds pay for highway repair and bridge replacement. Amtrak pays for NJ Transit. How much power does a governor have to improve NJ Transit and our highway infrastructure? We have this big hole in Route 80. Maybe you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
How much power does a governor have to fix it?
A lot. And
really?
It would be #1 priority for us, and we would fix it. And I'm going to tell you how. So first, I would just highlight the fact that Jersey City and my administration has a lot of experience on this. We're the first for Vision Zero. We're in the ferry business. We have the largest bike share program that we started, largest complete streets and protected bike lanes. We have a microtransit system that has done 2.5 million rides that we started over the last 5 years. It's the largest in the country to serve underserved areas. So a lot of experience on transit. I stand alone relative to the others in a couple ways. First, the corporate business tax that funds New Jersey Transit today that Governor Murphy put in place last year, it was actually a byproduct, according to New Jersey policy perspective, of our policy proposal a year earlier. It was only put in place from Phil Murphy for 5 years. It was wrong. You need to do it in perpetuity so you could bond against that to modernize stations, improve infrastructure so people feel good when they enter a train station and they want to reuse it. Secondly, I would cancel the Turnpike widening project, $12 billion into the Holland Tunnel. It's a silly project. It doesn't make a lot of sense rationally. And we'd reappropriate that dollars beyond the safety improvements, which would keep towards light rail expansion, particularly in Camden, Gloucester, and then the Bergen light rail extension. It's really important to New Jersey. Third, the privatization of New Jersey Transit buses, which has happened over the last 20 years. It's a gross misconnect between priorities of government and priorities of corporate America, and you need to better align that so that way mass transit on buses is functioning from government, because our mission is different than a private entity. And then finally, I stood alone on congestion pricing when every other elected official, including the governor and all the other candidates for governor, said that it's a bad thing. I said, if you believe in health, if you believe in the environment, if you believe in mass transit, this is a good thing. This is how to implement it. And I've proven to be right. And so we would go back to the table to leverage New York to get more money for mass transit. So I think it's fixable. It's a priority for me. I have experience on it, and I would lean into it immediately.
Immigration. The Trump administration is investigating Governor Murphy over his immigration policies and wants to allow ICE to expand that Newark facility into a prison to detain even more immigrants. How will you ensure that they are protected and given due process?
Well, look, again, this is a good example of people might say the right things and a different sort of track record that I have. Beyond the fact that my mom's professional life was immigration services in Newark, when I got into Jersey City as the mayor, we established an immigrant affairs office. It's the only nationally accredited immigration affairs office in a municipal building in the country. We've been at the forefront of the refugee resettlement program for Ukraine, for Afghanistan. And during COVID, when the state and federal government wouldn't give any sort of resources to undocumented people, we raised money in the private sector to service them. I say that because we have an extensive track record on immigration that's second to none beyond this moment in time. When a bully pushes you, the responsible thing is to push back, and that's the clear message. And I don't think Phil Murphy is doing enough of that. The Immigrant Trust Act needs to be passed immediately. It sends a very clear message to the federal government that we will not be pushed around. Secondly, you've seen a lot of nonprofits in Trenton that serve documented and legal immigrants here with crucial infrastructure and crucial needs that have had their funding entirely dried up. That is a place that Trenton can lean in a little bit more and demonstrate the fact that we embrace our immigrants. So I think there's things that we can be doing. And I think as governor, I'd be approaching it differently than Phil or any of the other candidates.
Climate.
Yeah.
Congress cut $217 million in federal funding for 212 New Jersey projects that address climate change. They also cut the jobs that would have gone with those projects. Could you resurrect any of those projects without federal help?
I don't know what the specific projects are. I will tell you that I am the only campaign that has a comprehensive sustainability and environmental plan on their website. It is detailed. It's what I did in Jersey City, what I would do as governor. And the way I've outlined it is really focused on things that we don't rely on the federal government for. So thinking about how do you move climate change forward in a time when you have a president that doesn't believe in climate change. So we focused on things like open space preservation, more Green Acres funding. We were the first to call on a moratorium on those big warehouses, flood mitigation, things that we can control in New Jersey without thinking about the federal government. The projects that they canceled, I couldn't tell you because I don't know them.
But Jersey City did amazing work after Hurricane Sandy.
Jersey City has been at the forefront of the environmental conversation. I mean, we've done a lot on flood mitigation. We've built a lot of new parks.
And that was your own money.
Yes. And we've done a lot to offset and encourage the private sector to build more resilient. We've done a lot on this. It's a passion of mine. And I really do believe that there is an urgency to now of the climate change conversation. You know, we're always thinking about ways to procrastinate and delay. You always hear people in Washington say, today is not the day because of affordability, or today is not the day because of X, Y, Z. I'm a big believer that is a conversation right now. The moment is now that, there's no getting that time back that we've wasted around climate change.
How do you rate Governor Murphy?
A C. I feel like he's been very good on core Democratic issues post Chris Christie. So there was some low-hanging fruit that he accomplished. I think he could have been much more bold. I think executives that are meaningful are bold. Rudy Giuliani, before he went crazy, was talking about like crime in New York. Mayor Bloomberg, smoking in bars, eliminating it. It was a bold thing. De Blasio, universal pre-K, McGreevey, Highlands, Pinelands, insurance reform. Christie leaned into pension reform and property taxes. I think you'd be hard-pressed to say in the last 8 years, what was the trophy achievement that Governor Murphy did that was so politically difficult? And he would say maybe the minimum wage, which Jersey City happens to be first on. But, by the time we got there, there were 20 other states that were already at $15. And it's still a poverty wage in New Jersey. Paid sick leave, we were the first. Same sort of conversation. Plastic bags, same thing. So I think he's been okay. Not great, not bad, okay.
One of his biggest challenges in the last, hard to believe, 100 days or so, is dealing with President Trump. If you win governor, you'll have 3 years, 3.5, to deal with President Trump. How are you going to handle it?
I mean, look, I've never met President Trump. My priority is really the state of New Jersey. I'm very clear that these are the goals that I'm driving at. The reason I'm so specific on the things I want to address is because I know these are things that I could do to fix New Jersey without the federal government and how to problem solve when they try to hurt us. I'm vocal though. I got a lot of scars for fights that I've been engaged in New Jersey with these political bosses, and I'm not scared of pushing back, and I think my track record speaks to that. But my objective is to really talk about, how are we going to make the state more affordable, fix the energy issues, the healthcare issues, and I feel like that is something I'm laser focused on, and New Jersey residents should feel comfortable that they have a fighter, an advocate, but somebody who's process and detail oriented and will get the job done like I did in Jersey City.
It's the Republicans' turn. Fun fact, in the history of the state of New Jersey, no governor has been elected from the same party in succession. It's the Republicans' turn. Why do you think it's going to be different this time? Why do you think a Democrat could?
Let me say it this way. When I ran for city council, we upset the political machine. In 2013, they were all against us, and the entire state apparatus. When I ran for mayor, we beat them, and it'll be the same in 2025. We're gonna change history on that. I feel like we're gonna beat the entire political establishment on June 10th. These political machines will be redefined as irrelevant. And in November, we will run a very hard race and be successful. And I feel good about my ability to communicate what I want to do, my vision for New Jersey, my passion for it, and my ability to move independent voters and Republicans into a place that they could see how what I'm saying can benefit them.
Mayor Steve Fulop, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interviews with Mary Alice Williams. Are you looking to take the next step? Then come on and join the Montclair Dems. We're a statewide organization with a network of more than 12,000 volunteers across New Jersey. Please visit themontclairdems.com to start making an impact today. And thanks again for taking a few minutes to join us.